Okay, hi guys. Hello, welcome nerds. How are you? Welcome to our Stormlight Archive 5 prediction show. I'm really excited to talk to you guys about everything we think is going to happen in Stormlight Archive 5. Someone told me on Alex's Discord today that it's too early to be predicting Stormlight Archive 5, and I disagree.
No, right after Rhythm of War, like I gotta talk about this.
We can do one a year every till it comes out. So I'm obviously Bookborn. You probably know who I am if you're here, and I'll let everyone else introduce themselves.
Hey, I'm Eric with 17 Shard. We have very long videos about Cosmere stuff.
I am Grace. I am also from 17 Shard, and yeah, if you want the most in-depth discussion on Brandon Sanderson, the Cosmere, sometimes non-Cosmere stuff too, come listen to our 3-hour-long podcasts episodes.
Hey, sometimes they're under 2. Sometimes.
Hi guys, I'm Elle from the channel Elliot Brooks, and also a little bit World Hoppers, and I'm really excited to be here. I feel like I was invited to the Cool Kids Club because I love Sanderson. I'm so excited.
Hey everybody, I'm Alex Nieves. My name is also my channel because I am super creative. I talk a lot about fantasy and sci-fi. Love Brandon Sanderson. I read essentially the entire Cosmere last year, so excited to talk some Stormlight.
Great, let's get into it. We are going to try to keep this live to an hour and a half, and because of that, I want to jump right in because I know all of us like to talk a lot. So we're going to go in. I think probably one of the most divisive questions, which is who's going to be Odium's champion? Who is going to be Dalinar's champion?
Oh, Rhythm of War spoilers.
Oh,
I mean, just...
It's a book 5 prediction video. If you wanted spoiler free.
Look, there were people who went to my 10 craziest things on Rhythm of War and like, you spoiled things. Like, come on.
Yeah, actually, I want to make a caveat. Probably a spoiler for the entire Cosmere.
Probably,
there will be several Mistborn spoilers for sure, at least in what I'm thinking about. I would just...
That's a spoiler.
It's a spoiler telling you that. I don't know what to tell you. Okay. So yeah, leave if you don't want spoilers. But okay, let's hear this. Who wants to go first? Who's going to be Todium's champion?
All right, I'll go first because I do have a strong feelings about my prediction.
Okay.
I think Odium Taravangian's champion is going to be Seth. And I know that might be a little out of left field for some people, but I think Seth's entire story arc up until now has been sort of him struggling between these two masters of Taravangian and Dalinar. And I think for the Tournament of Champions between Taravangian and Dalinar, it makes a lot of sense for him to have a major role, as part of his, as like the culmination of his personal arc. And I think Taravangian is very, very good at manipulating Seth, and Seth has Nightblood, so he is a very good champion to have.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe him as a champion for Dalinar since he swore his oath to him. But I like your comment about has been his two masters and like who will he side with? I think it's up in the air.
I actually kind of agree, but from the standpoint that I think Taravangian is such a good manipulator and he's already done that to Seth that it's almost like he's going to manipulate him again, and it's going to be such a heartbreak to see Seth kind of like get away from it just to be pulled back into it and then have to fight Dalinar, who he swore this oath to, and then have the whole like truthless thing in his own mind again. Like, I think that's a really good one, honestly.
What will happen to his powers though? Because wouldn't that be breaking an oath that he made to follow Dalinar?
Well, we do in Rhythm of War, his friend does say, to achieve the 5th oath, you have to go beyond your oath to Dalinar. So I think once he swears more oaths, there is a potential for him to keep his powers.
Who do you think he'll go up against? Do you think it would be like a Kaladin-Szeth rematch?
I don't think it's Kaladin.
Me either.
No, it won't be Kaladin. I think it'll, on Dalinar's side, I think it'll be Adolin, honestly, which I also think will mean, if that's the case, Adolin is going to die. I don't want him to die, but I feel like regardless of who he fights, if Adolin is Dalinar's champion, I think he's 100% going to lose, and I think he's going to die. And then that'll screw over Dalinar and be a domino effect.
Dalinar's going to feel really bad.
Right?
See, the thing is I think it's going to be Dalinar himself, because that's kind of what the end scene implied. Right? It's
that
like,
is
no.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to be you, Kaladin. You're the best fighter, but some things man has to do himself. And so, like, I think Gavilar's personally going to do that.
I
definitely-
saw that too.
Yeah, I was gonna say he definitely seems like somebody, because like you're saying, he very much seemed like this is not something that you ask another person to do.
Mhm.
Right.
So I could definitely see that. I honestly, I don't know. I feel like before this book, I had bigger suspicions, and then now I feel clueless. I saw somebody say they think that somehow Taravangian is going to rope Wit into being his champion, and I was like, oh my gosh, that would be really insane. But I don't know, and I know we're not on that point yet, and we will probably eventually get to talking about Hoyd/Wit, but the implications of that ending are terrifying.
Yes.
I know. I don't actually think Kaladin is going to be anybody's champion, but I referenced when I was talking about it the fact that there's that scene where Adolin gives Kaladin the coin and then talks about how they'll have to duel sometime. And it felt like a Sanderson, it's leading to something somehow, some tragic. I almost have wondered if Adolin will, to purposefully lose, he'll try to be Taravangian's champion, but then lose on purpose. And because of the fact that in Words of Radiance, after what he does, there's like clearly some potential for him to be seen as having a bad side. And I could see him maybe going that route, but to trick Taravangian and then trying to lose on purpose or something.
You can't trick Taravangian, right? He's too smart, I feel like. You think Adolin could be strong enough to trick him?
Adolin's a dumbass. I don't think he's going to trick Taravangian.
But couldn't you see him trying? Because he's always he always runs into things full force, going to try to do his best, I feel like. And I definitely don't know if he's the wittiest of characters, but I definitely think he does things with his all.
I don't think they're gonna know that it's Taravangian, like, at all. They're gonna think it's Race until right at the Battle of Champions, and Taravangian's gonna try and royally screw them over, like, right there. So, like, I think the champions will be well chosen before that's revealed.
What about Moash?
I would have believed Moash if Odium was still Race, but I don't see Taravangian picking such an obvious person. I don't think Taravangian would really like Moash like Race did. I think they're at odds.
It's weird.
And Moash is blind now, apparently.
Right.
Like, we have no idea how that'll play in, but if it's a physical battle, that seems like it would be a handicap. I mean, I don't know how much of it will be physical versus sort of like a Battle of Thalen Field, like battle for the will of the person type thing.
Yeah.
But if it's just a pure physical battle, like losing your sight 10 days earlier seems like a pretty big handicap.
And it say too that it's not like they have no idea what it entails necessarily. So it's hard to even know what's going to happen within that fight. And those, I don't know. I thought the same thing, that he's blind now. So even if it seemed like, plus, I don't know, Sanderson never picks the obvious choice. If Mistborn taught us anything, it's never the person you think, or maybe if you might have thought the one that is the most obvious isn't the person.
Is this where
Yuri
we talk about
is asking about Jasna. Does anyone think it's going to be Jasna?
Ooh, them's fighting words pronouncing it Jasna.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think there's been enough build up, and I think Jasna has other strengths. If it's, a fight to the death, I don't think she's the right choice.
She's not.
And I don't think Gavinor would choose her. I don't see their dynamic is, it's just a different dynamic maybe.
Right.
And I feel like Jasna is going to join Shallan, and they're going to go together to fight some ghostbloods and get Bottom Ishram. Because we need Jasna and Shallan to actually, deal with the whole ghostblood thing, because they have not done that since book 1 at all. Really got to do that.
Talk about this. Like, I'm kind of on the ghostblood side, so maybe we'll need to talk about that. I don't want them to be defeated. Anyway, we can talk about that later, though.
Let's talk about Bottom Ishram. I love that.
Does anyone want to talk about the Gavinor theory? Because
yes, I do.
Okay, Eric, take us away. Give us the word of Brandon on Gavinor and our death rattles. Give us the
Well, it's just the death rattle. So the death rattle, I think, is that there's a child with a knife to the throat.
I hold it's something like I don't have it in front of me, but it's like I hold the suckling child in my arms and know that all who live. Yeah. Know that all who live wish me to let the blade slip, spill its blood upon the ground, and with it gain us further breath to draw.
Yeah, so Ben liked this theory, and I know chat talked about this earlier. They're like, no baby theory. No. So a few people were thinking either Oridon or Gavinor. Yeah.
I think it's a compelling theory. My initial reaction was also stop bringing babies into this. But when you think about Gavinor, I think there is an argument that he could be swayed by Taravangian. And I think it's an interesting theory. I'm on board.
I think the big hurdle for me is that from what we've seen with Dalinar and kind of with Kaladin at the end of Book 4, Rhythm of War, like the champion, it has to be willing. It has to be this like willingness to give Odium pain. And I just don't find like a literal toddler being like, all right, Odium, you have my pain, to be a particularly compelling story beat.
Good point.
Really, I feel like we already got pushed a little bit with Dalinar's whole like, whoopsie, I burned my wife to death. So I can't imagine. I'm trying to imagine like, hey, let's have this really the morals of that. But you know what? Now that people are saying, can you imagine a child being picked? Nobody would want to hurt a child. That would be so dark.
Yeah, that's the idea. That like, would you do that?
No, and then that's why Dalinar gets Seth to be his champion.
Because Seth doesn't care.
Oh my gosh, this is dark. I think the one argument against that is that Sanderson already thought his last book was too dark, and I don't know if he would push it that much. Seth versus the child, where Seth's like, I'll just kill you. It's fine.
I think a lot of people could die in Book 5.
I'm expecting.
They need to.
Yeah,
but it's also, is it focused on Seth though?
Seth's the flashback character.
Okay, so then I feel like.
Sorry, Alex.
Then I kind of feel like Seth has to be one of the champions, right? Like if he's going to be one of the main focuses of the book, like I feel like he's going to end up being Dalinar's champion then. I don't know. Yeah. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting right now.
I just don't know how like all the Shinovar stuff, because there's a bunch of people going to Shinovar, like how that's going to relate to the Battle of Champions at Urithiru. Like I don't know how that's going to even weave together, and if like when in the 10 days in this book, when's that going to happen? Is that going to be like early? Is that going to be part 5? Like,
I was talking to Michael Nip about what if somehow to like play around with the word choice. You know how if you're on another planet or like the way that time is affected by like your distance. So what if they somehow messed around with that to like change the fact that it's 10 days? I'm sure that's not actually going to happen. But since there's so much world hopping potential in the upcoming books, it'd be kind of fun if they did something like that. I don't think it's actually going to happen though.
Yes, one day on Braze is a year on Roshar. So you just run to Braze and have the Tournament of Champions be at the start of book 6.
Perfect.
And I just want to double check. Sanderson has said before that a character doesn't have to be alive to get backstory, right?
That's true. Yeah, to get flashbacks. That's totally true.
Yeah, because I'm wondering, I know we mentioned Yasna earlier, so I'm wondering if like something were to happen to her. I think he said that she'll get a book and that Renard might get a book.
She's my favorite character, so obviously I have to wait 20 years.
It's gonna be crazy though. You got it
naturally.
Yeah,
I could see though her backstory involving a lot of what's gonna happen in book 5. I don't know.
Yeah,
because I'm thinking like what. Sorry, my dog has come to say hello.
Hi, Luna.
Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh, Elle, you can go.
Oh no, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say to Alex's point, we didn't actually see that much of our backstory and 4 viewpoint. Like, why is her name escaping me? I keep thinking of Shonai. What's her name?
Shonai Venli.
Venli, thank you. That was so crazy. Venli actually wasn't that very present in book 4.
That's true.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting.
So Navani was like the actual main character in a way.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a lot of
the other books that more close, like directly related though. I mean, Oathbringer was clearly Dalinar.
Yeah,
like
very
clearly Kaladin. You know, I'm just kind of getting the feeling that like we're getting more and more of Seth each book, to where he was still a side character in Rhythm of War, but like he was definitely more present than in the past. And then I just feel like book 5 is going to be really focused on him, which would be super cool, and getting a lot of backstory as to how he got to where he was. I feel like that would a good necessary conclusion, because I don't know if he's going to be in the next arc, would be for him to become one of the champions, whether it's Taravangians or Dalinars, and kind of end his story there. I feel like would be a good conclusion.
It feels like Zeth's really expendable. Like we can definitely kill him off book 5, and no one's really going to be that sad about it.
I'll be pretty sad.
I mean, we have so much, I think, left unresolved with Seth. It feels like we have all of his backstory in Shinovar. We have him returning to Shinovar and training with Nail and progressing in his oaths. I almost wouldn't be surprised if like we were all like, oh, Zeth's expendable now, and then we hit book 5 and Zeth dies, and we're all like sobbing because of how well written Brandon wrote his backstory and his arc just in that one book.
That's
what happened with stupid Elhokar. He was so quiet for so long, and then in Oathbringer, you're like, "Oh, I'm coming around. He's actually really funny now." And that part where he's a woman and everything, and you're just like, "Oh, this is great." And then he's trying so hard, and when he cries, and he's like, "This is how you see me, Shallan," and you're like, "Oh no, he's gonna die now."
So there is somebody in my Discord that absolutely hates Elhokar and was gleeful at his demise. And I was like, but he was turning it around. He was like, so it doesn't matter. But he also hates Dalinar, because Dalinar is kind of a war criminal. So.
Well, I mean, that's fair. If someone doesn't like Dalinar because of that, that's entirely logically reasonable.
You know, I do talk about this a lot on my channel. There is a Voldemort versus Umbridge thing that goes on in Oathbringer. Dalinar is clearly a war criminal, yet we hate Moash more. It's just about it's about the numbers that we don't care about versus the people we see and meet in our daily life. So I think those people are logical, but then we're reading a book and whatever.
I do think that the crowd that Moash did nothing wrong, I felt bad for them before. Like, I felt bad that Rhythm of War basically was like, no,
he's just pure evil now.
Okay, everything. I want to make sure my husband's not around because he hasn't read it yet.
Oh, no.
But the Tef thing, just like, let's just throw it right in front of Kaladin to see if Kaladin finally you're just like, you're evil. So
he wasn't great.
Yeah.
I don't want a Moash redemption arc for him. I do not all want that.
Look,
don't you kind of see it happening though?
The only thing Moash did wrong was his terrible fashion choices in the Black Bridge 4 uniform.
Okay, after the Elhokar thing, when he gives the Bridge 4 salute, I'm like, can you be more of a tool? I hate you. Please die.
I know, it's great.
It's one of those things where the day he dies, if this were a movie, the theater would cheer. You know, it's just you hate him that much. Except for, I would love to know who still likes him after Rhythm of War.
There's a few, but let's be honest. Design is so much better as Hoid's Spren than Elhokar's Spren. Let's be completely honest. Design would be wasted on Elhokar.
I loved that dynamic.
It was great.
That was one of my favorite things in Rhythm of War.
So, Moash did something right.
It's like Hoid is finally getting his it put back on him, his attitude and sass, and I love it. I like how we're not even talking about
this is what happens.
This is always what happens.
But I can believe that there's going to be a Kaladin versus Moash fight, right? I mean, that's going to be totally separate from the champion battle.
It needs to be resolved, and the only way it's going to be resolved if they're head on head, whether that's a physical fight or some other thing. It's the only logical thing. Yeah.
See, but I almost disagree with that. I almost feel like they're both of them where they ended at Rhythm of War. You could have a conclusion where they meet, and it seems like it's building to this climactic fight. And then Kaladin just realizes how pitiful Moash is, and he's not even worth it. I think that could almost be a subversion that is still really satisfying.
I want Moash to die a bloody, violent death.
I don't even want Moash to die, and I don't want him to have a redemption arc. I want him just to exist as he is. But one thing that's great is I feel like Kaladin would have to get very far to get to that point because he still has such a saving people personality. And I think it's even better. Like, I think his ideal at the end of Rhythm of War got us to there, but I don't think he's at the point yet where he could look at Moash and be like, I can just let you be pitiful.
Brush my hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's there yet.
I hope. Okay, so I would love it if it was a Kaladin Moash showdown, because we a little bit were robbed of the Kaladin Amaram showdown, you know? Like,
yes, totally. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I was really looking forward to that loser dying. I'll put it that way.
It was not as cool as I think it should have been.
Yeah, so I wouldn't think that Sanderson would do that again, where, well, maybe Navani. It would be pretty cool if Navani killed him. You know, I feel like it would be reasonable if it were her, but I don't know. I really want him to die. I think pretty much, I know we were going to potentially chat about who we think is going to survive and die. I think most of our cast is going to die. And I don't want Moash to be left over. So
the end of the Cosmere, everyone's dead. Moash is alive. It is his on the human world. He has become a hero.
The heat death of the universe is happening in the Cosmere, and only Moash is still there.
So he's a cockroach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, I think Kaladin could die. I think Dalinar definitely can die.
I think Dalinar 100% is going to die.
Well, he can either die or ascend as honor.
Right. It's I like how no one
thinks he's going to be trapped. Like, this kind of goes back into how do we think the contest is going to end. I think there's a very likely scenario where Dalinar loses, is entrapped by Odium, and now has to serve as his personal servant. I could see that happening.
I can see that too. And it would be heartbreaking for the second, I'm going to call it second era, I guess. Second era. For all these people who he was their leader, essentially, and now they have to find a way to bring him down. That's pretty tragic. And I always am down for the most tragic plotline.
Yes.
So, Elle, is your book like Gavinor versus Dalinar? Dalinar loses, and now we have to see Dalinar era 2.
Oh my gosh, that would be okay. I feel like maybe tragic without a kid being a champion.
Then we kill Kaladin off too, and still has to wander around.
Are we doing death predictions now?
We're into it. Let's go. Speed round.
We have anti-investiture now. We can see Spren die. I think Syl will die in book 5.
I hate it.
Literally everyone hates that.
I know everyone would hate it, but I think we'll see Syl die in book 5 from anti-investiture, and Kaladin will have to learn how to move on and be leader of the Windrunners without her.
Suffered enough. I do want to say though, I did a video where I asked people to predict what the Stormlight 5 book's title will be, because it's probably going to follow the palindrome pattern. Somebody jokingly said "Killer of Wendell," so maybe you're on to something here.
That's good.
Alex and I would be fine if Lift died. So
Lift's not gonna die.
But it could be.
Lift is gonna be the savior of all of Stormlight in the Cosmere and live on infinitely in my brain forever. Because that's how much Brandon Sanderson likes her.
Lift's got to be really important.
The KOW could be like Killer of Winds and like Windspren and Syl and Honor Spren connected to them.
Somebody
got all those Spren.
Like,
that was
if Syl dies, what do you think happens to Kaladin? Does he just like crumble, or does he rise up and be like, okay, like I literally have nothing left and I'm just gonna go take out Odium? Like, what happens to him?
You know what? Stop it, because this is actually sounding like something that could happen. He is not.
When Alex put it that way, I'm like, shoot, this is a story about Kaladin having up again and again and again.
I feel like, okay, guys, can he stop being like Lot from the Bible, where it's just like one bit of suffering after the next? Like, let the guy have, like, when you talked about the number one question, will Kaladin find love? I'm like, I sure hope so.
That's true. I do hope so. That's for sure.
But it better not be Syl. Can we just talk about that? Because that ship is cursed and I hate it.
Oh, like an actual ship between them?
That's weird for me.
No, see, that's why we got to get the spread into the physical realm. Easy peasy.
Yeah, that's not why. Okay.
That's exactly why Ishar is a matchmaker. That's what he is.
Oh, I want to say too that somebody also predicted the title will be Killer of Worlds, which I mean that's a little intense, but also
That's a bit of an intense title.
I mean,
So Roshar dies. That's
Roshar explodes.
I actually think Roshar might die. That has been my prediction. I think it's very possible that we may have to abandon Roshar.
the honor spren did say to Adolin, like, did you know that your father is killing the Stormfather? What happens if the Stormfather dies? What happens to Roshar? That's the question.
Yeah.
Storms just get so intense it just tears the entire planet apart.
I mean, we know they've done it before, right? We know that they've broken their previous planet. I think there's a big possibility that we could break
Blow it up
Roshar.
again. Yeah. I like
I
it.
mean, it would explain, having all of these other Cosmere tie-ins start to become so prevalent if you're going to start to see them all have to go somewhere else, basically. A mass exodus from Roshar.
I know. I am sure in back half we are going to get to Ashen and Braze 100%. I don't know if Roshar is going to explode, but it would mean that we need a different setting and a different cast. Be a good reason.
Yeah.
What else? Somebody bring up Dawn charts. Yeah. I mean,
And to people in chat, yes, this is definitely full Cosmere spoilers. If you're just joining.
Yes. I don't think Shallan and Adolin are going to die. I don't want them to die. I think
I
they
wouldn't see
have to
Shallan
live.
dying.
fine with it. I'd be fine.
I think Adolin could die. I think Dalinar will die.
I think sometimes I think about people dying and not dying based on story reasons, not even like just Sanderson. Like if he takes Adolin, whatever, takes him away, he doesn't have as good of a mean to bringing happiness into a story. He uses Adolin a lot as a golden retriever, as I like to say.
Literally, I literally said he's a golden retriever in my Stormlight Archive characters as dog.
Just bring him open.
Yeah, it's a little different. So I think that, and it's the same reason I don't think R'lain is gonna die, or that
or Renarin.
Renarin, thank you. My names are going crazy because he's not going to bury his gaze. Like it's just, I know that's a dumb.
That would be bad. That would be really bad.
Yeah.
That would not go well.
I think Brandon tries pretty hard not to do stuff like that, and so even though that's not a good in-story reason, I would find it pretty hard to believe he's going to kill those characters in book 5.
Yeah,
I think most of the main. So I agree that I think Dalinar is essentially going to ascend or be trapped in some fashion. I used to think before Rhythm of War that he was going to die before this was all over, but I'm thinking more of the other stuff. But then I think our main characters, I think it's possible Kaladin and Adolin would die. I could see Shallan surviving, and then I know there's a theory that she would have a child, and then that child would be one of the characters in the second half. And I think R'lain, Renarin, Yasna, I think all of those characters are gonna live.
See,
what if nobody dies?
I don't believe that for a second.
Could you imagine? Oh man,
Shallan is my number one guess as our main world hopper, so that's why I think she will survive. It just seems very set up that she will.
Yeah, and I think story reasons is part of why I think in book 5 we have to see one of our main spren die. Is now with this introduction of anti-investiture, it almost feels like there's a promise there of things are more dangerous, and these characters that you thought were safe no longer are.
Oh, I want to mention too, I know in Hillary, you talked about the fact that the words of Brandon, where he talked about the dead eyes resembling something we've seen before.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of that? I have a thought, but I want to see if I'm just a dummy and you guys have.
I think it's the seance from Elantris.
You think that's what it is?
Yeah.
So I was kind of I know this is a stupid thing, but it reminded me a little bit of the Steel Inquisitors with hemalurgy and the spikes, because it's such a distinct the eye thing. I don't know, the fact they said we've seen it. You've seen something like it before made me think it's more on the nose. His ghostbloods with Kelsier thing is so on the nose. The words of Brandon for that.
Yeah, it really is.
I'm almost is he kind of just telling us hey, look over there. They're eye stuff. and then there I stop.
Well, the thing with the Seons is that, they were basically insane and like sort of non-functional, much like the Deadeye, and they're also sort of like Spren, although there are some mechanical differences there. So I think it's just referring to that. Like Steel Inquisitors didn't really go insane until, they never really went insane.
I'm just wondering, because they were kind of able to be manipulated.
Well, that's true. Yes.
And then I'm wondering, if there was a way to manipulate the Deadeyes in that way or something. I don't know. That could be tragic with stuff with Maya. Right? I feel like this is all just so out there, but...
Yeah. See, I don't think Adolin can die for two reasons. For one, we gotta free Bottomishram and revive Maya. And then, in back half, Shallan and Adolin can figure out how to revive Testament. Great. Also, if Dalinar dies or is removed in whatever these ways are, then Adolin can be a leader without Dalinar breathing down his neck constantly, because Adolin's always comparing himself to Dalinar. And so seeing him be an awesome, badass leader without Dalinar, that sounds really cool. And also, I want to see them have a child who will have both red, black, and blonde hair, so that could just be Yugi. And that'd be great.
That's plausible.
That's plausible here.
All I want for Adolin is for Adolin and Shallan to world hop, and Adolin to bring Cosmere factions back to Roshar with him.
Yep.
That's the end game, really.
He would. Yeah. He totally would. So yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Eric.
Well, I just think there's enough to do with Adolin and Shallan there. Oh, yeah. I don't know. Are we gonna get 5th ideals from Kaladin? I feel like we have so much to do in this next book, and we have 10 days to do it. We got all the stuff with Shinovar, got all the stuff with Ghostbloods and Bottomishram, the whole champion stuff. I don't know. How much are we going to pack in? I don't know. But
that's an interesting question. Do you think, how much of the book do you think the 10 days is going to take up? Is that part 1? Is it part 2? Is it half the book? Is it the whole,
I get the vibe that he's going to do to us what he did in Rhythm of War, where he's going to change our expectations, and it's going to happen either really quick, and then there's going to be a lot of other repercussions, or
dropping Sanderlanche, and then, I still have 500 more pages to read.
Or 800.
I don't know quite that
much. It's going to be 3,000
probably.
Or they're going to lose, and the very end of the book is going to be what have we done, or what just happened, and it's going to end on the biggest cliffhanger, and then we're going to have to wait years for
many years, at least 5.
Regardless of how it ends, everyone's going to be no, I need the other book next year, and it's going to be just kidding, it's 6 years from now. But
yeah.
Has he said the time gap between 5 and 6?
Isn't it 10?
Publishing or in-world?
In-world.
It's 10 or 15. I don't know if he's specifically said. I seem to think 15 a little more, but
does anyone get stressed out by time hops? Because when Rhythm of War told us we lost a year, it stressed me out a lot. I hate time hops, and so the idea of 15 years.
I only hated the time hop because supposedly Kaladin had a whole relationship in between.
I like it.
15 years is long enough, though, for someone to have a child and be of age to be, part of the story.
Right.
Lift will be an adult, so she'll play a big role. Whoever survives book 5 will be much older and wiser whenever it happens. I feel like if there's that time gap, I feel like book 5 has to end kind of bittersweet at best, because you're going to be left with okay, well, what are we going to do for 15 years? If all the good guys win, Odium dies and everyone's happy, it's okay. Mm-hmm. So something else is going to happen. It's I think it's going to end kind of depressing almost, and be well, like Elle said, what happens now? Find out next.
But I think Brandon is aware of that there is going to be a gap, and I think he's going to resolve a lot of these major threads to where, there's going to be some things left hanging, but I think a lot less than we're suspecting. I personally think it's going to feel complete.
He also wanted it to be satisfying, right? Yeah. And I'm you can't just murder everyone and still see you later. That's not going to be satisfying.
I agree in that I think that maybe a lot of these threads will be completed and then a bomb will be dropped that is opening new threads, but it's like at least we got a complete 5 because he kind of even did that at the end of Rhythm of War. Like you felt like things were kind of like complete, and then this bomb that Taravangian, like that whole thing was just.
Maybe it's where something to do with they win, but like it's wit that finally you get more of his intentions, and you're like, gosh darn it, and you find out he's been behind the scenes basically planning
the bad guy the whole time.
And then he's an enemy. I don't know. I just want more wit, Hoyd.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while till we get that.
I know.
Like 50 years. So
a big thing with the time jump into the next books, and one reason why I'm not wanting everyone to die, but I am always frustrated in any form of a continuation when it feels like either the characters haven't changed at all, because if you're going to have that many years go by, they're going to be completely different people. But I almost don't want them to be different people, and I don't want them to just be in the background as like, well, they're the grown-ups now, and let's talk to the young kids. So I don't know. I feel like it almost would be more satisfying if they died, and then you had some of the side characters, like someone like Yasna, she's pretty important, but she's not as big of a point. So if she was a bigger point, if Renarin was a bigger point, and then some of the younger characters, I think that would work well. I mean, what's Kaladin and what are they all going to be like in 15 years? I don't know.
Go ahead, Grace.
As a counterpoint to these kind of like everyone dies is the best way to get like kind of closure for this thing's theories is a more hopeful one. We've gotten hints now multiple times of some kind of greater war coming.
Right.
And so maybe there could be something where book 5 doesn't on a hopeful note, where it seems like our heroes have won, but then we find out maybe in the epilogue, or I don't know, maybe there's that like, hey, like this is like, there is this greater thing coming, and even though you beat Odium, they may not even realize it at the time, but that is going to cause problems, 15 years down the line that the next generation is going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
I think 100% the epilogue is going to be that big, like, WTF, like, give me the next book now moment. Yeah.
And I don't even necessarily think that it's going to be something our heroes are aware of. It could be like, to them, they get to think Odium is defeated and we get to live these happy lives and we don't have to worry anymore. But the audience knows from the hints that have been dropped that like Odium was planning for something else that is coming.
Yeah, I was thinking this too. Do you think it's going to be something like almost they win the battle but not the war, where they think they've won against Odium, Taravangian, but then it's more of like a battle with the shards in the the back end?
That's plausible.
Just full on Avengers, everybody coming together.
I mean, I think about how the big thing right now is that nobody knows Taravangian has taken up Odium. Yeah. And I wonder if it's going to be that sort of thing, like Alex said, like they will feel like they have won, and then at the end we'll get that sort of information, that key bit that our main characters don't have.
Yep.
And now it's like, now what? Yeah.
Like we don't know what like Cultivation's plans are. She could be totally evil. That's very plausible.
I know. We've been thinking cultivate. I shouldn't speak for everyone. I have been thinking cultivation as this like honor surrogate. Like they were in a relationship, like woohoo. And then this whole thing where she basically paved the way for Taravangian to take up Odium has me reeling about what I have assumed about cultivation. So I would like your guys' thought on that. Like two things, like Taravangian, what do you think his goals are now? Because I think his goals are different than Race's. And who, if anyone, do you think would bond the Night Watcher? Are we ever going to see the Night Watcher bonded? So those are kind of like questions about cultivation. Go.
For the Night Watcher, I think the Night Watcher could maybe be a back half. Dalinor and Navani are old and moved on, and the Night Watcher Bondsmith becomes the next Bondsmith for that back half. I don't know who that would be. Maybe like Gox, Yanigan, Emperor of Azir. I don't know. Just throwing a name out there. I think
maybe we haven't met.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see the Night Watcher get bonded in book 5, though, for sure.
There's too much to do to get another Bondsmith, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that we're going to find out that there's I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out kind of a similar thing of what was said before. If the Taravangian thing, and we think that there's closure and we think that it's good, but then it turns out cultivation has other plans this whole time, and then you start to really see those leading into that would make sense for you feel like everything is resolved to an extent, but you still have a lot left. I think that could be really interesting because it's more insidious, I guess you could say. And as far as Taravangian to me is almost like one of those like a crazy cult leader where he thinks he's doing good by like killing everybody kind of a person. So
there's Thanos.
I think he's crazier, but also he's smarter than it was less of a I just want to destroy sort of mindset. So I almost feel like it could be more calculated, and I think that's more frightening.
Way more frightening. And I do wonder, because correct me if I'm wrong, but the longer you hold a shard, the more like it you become. And so because Taravangian is newly holding this, I feel like we'll see mostly his personality, whereas Ray's was much more affected by Odium.
Yeah. You know
So
what I mean? Like we could see more of that in even 15 years. Taravangian if he does survive. So
I almost think he will now then. Because if he's like, he'll be a totally different character in book 6 then.
Oh, I think Taravangian is gonna be with us until far future space era Mistborn.
He's the villain for all time, you know? He's an excellent villain.
He is a great villain.
I mean, we even got those letters from Harmony in Rhythm of War where he was saying like, this power is a threat, and it's the power coupled with the cunning mind able to properly wield it.
Seriously.
That is the biggest threat, and the other shards don't see that. And I think that that letter in particular is setting up some kind of far future conflict with Harmony versus Taravangian.
This is hilarious. I'm just trying to imagine Taravangian being really stupid sometimes, and then
I don't think he has the curse anymore. That's like a body thing, and his body doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
It would be pretty funny if the day they were supposed to have the showdown and he was just really dumb that day.
But
like, wait, guys, I had to take my test today and I failed it. So we gotta put a pin in this.
He's not just dumb. He is also emotional. And with Odium, that almost feels more dangerous.
Okay, when he's emotional, it's really sad. Every time I'm like, I know you killed lots of people, but gosh darn it, you're an old man crying right now. It was so depressing.
That's why the characters in these books are so good, though. It's just Brandon's like best character work that he's done. Because is there a badly written character in Stormlight that's just like, oh, this guy's terrible? Like even the ones that I don't like I don't like Lip, but I guess for writing an annoying 13-year-old, like he did it. But
I mean, I feel like a little bit Lopin. I know everybody likes Lopin, but
I don't like Lopin.
I'm glad he's not a main character because we've seen basically Lopin as a main character as Wayne in Mistborn Era 2, and I'm like, can I get a little less of you, please?
I liked him in Dawnshard though. Like he really got better with Dawnshard. Like maybe he'll be less insufferable. That'd be nice. But I'm not a Lopin or Wayne fan, really.
Yeah, I don't like him either. I was talking more Stormlight though, not.
Yeah, I think if anyone, I would say Amaram at times got a little bit into like card carrying villain territory. If anyone's from Stormlight.
Sadius was weirdly believable. Like I believe there are people in the world that are like you, but Amaram sometimes. But gosh, I mean,
especially at the end when he like turned to Odium fully and became the Yelignar monster.
Yeah. It still's interesting for me to remember that Brandon said that he was originally going to kill Amram at the end of Words of Radiance and not have him survive that book. So it's like, oh yeah, you didn't really know where Amram was going in the next book in a way, but
he could have died early. Yeah. I mean, I know a couple of you haven't said anything about the cultivation thing yet, and Night Watcher. I'm really curious to hear your theories.
Sailors on the Infinite Sea, that Pooley interlude, Cultivation's evil knights or something. They're chilling on Ashen. I don't know. We don't know. We have no idea.
The Knights of Ren. Are we going to finally get the answer to the Knights of Ren? Anyway.
Yes. As long as the Moash redemption arc isn't as bad as Kylo Ren in episode 9, that'd be great.
Talk about it.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it either.
I'm confused by cultivation. I don't have an answer. I'm on the ride for that one. So
I think it's going to be back half stuff. Like that is not going to be resolved. Like cultivation's been so in the background that like I think that's a good way to have book 6 things feel really different, that we're dealing with different conflicts, because we don't need to wrap up cultivation stuff in book 5 at all. There's a lot of other things that we definitely do.
It wouldn't be satisfying to wrap it up because you haven't had enough time with it, I think.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the ghostbloods?
Yeah, let's talk about ghostbloods.
I am okay. Does anybody else feel like the Kelsier is just really looking for a new crew? He's like, guys, I miss my old crew, and then he maybe.
I think that's true.
Yeah, he just needs like another group. It's like.
So I have a question, and sorry if it's been explained. So based on Secret History and what happened with Erewhon and Kelsier, what exactly is he?
Hemalurgy ? There's a spike in his eye, and we don't know. No clue.
You can see
is he physical walking around? Is that going to be like we're actually going to see Kelsier again? But he's going to be all like.
Well, not in Stormlight, I don't think, because he can't leave Scadrial. So
there's got to be some world hopping though going on, right?
Well, so apparently Brandon said that his current idea is that it's a Sion in a hood. Currently, that's what he talks to the ghostbloods. That's the avatar, which is hilarious. I can't believe Brandon actually said that.
Yeah, Kelsier's interesting for me. He was my first favorite character of the Cosmere. Mistborn.
So good.
Yeah, Mistborn was my first, after Wheel of Time, Mistborn was my first Sanderson, and I fell in love with Kelsier, and on rereads, I realized that he's not a good person, but I still love him, and so it's really hard for me to not root for Kelsier, despite the fact that he's probably gearing up to be a villain. It's going to be tough for me to divorce my love.
It's going to be good.
It's. I mean, I just want to say I really hated Secret History because I hate the stupid family reunion scene where I'm like, where they like cross over and Vin's like, Kelsier, what are you doing here? I hate it.
Vin and Eleanor.
Oh, really?
You're here.
I mean, I like that. I would have been upset if Kelsier didn't get to say a goodbye to Vin.
I know, but so anyway, I feel like it's weird to think of Kelsier not reflecting on the person that he would have wanted to make like Vin proud in a sense after everything that happened in Scadrial. But I would think that he thinks he's doing the right thing as he usually does. So I wouldn't expect him to be the way that someone like Moash I don't think anyone's implying that either. I just think that I guess what I'm saying is I could still root for him because I'm like, oh, maybe you have a point here. So I could see that. But
sorry, you go.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say that the end of Rhythm of War with the weird thing that Dalinar was seeing with the Spren, like physical bodies, them trying to get them in. Do you think that's a hint at how possibly Kelsier could come back through as like break free somehow?
I have no idea what that's doing in anything. Like, it's one of those things where Brandon just like, hey, do you want to destroy some evil? I'm like, I don't know how this has to do with anything. Then you read Rhythm of War, I'm like, oh, that's what he's doing. Got it. So I don't know how much that's going to be relevant in book 5. With Kelsier, I definitely think whenever we see in his perspective again, because I think we will, it might be Mistborn Era 3 and not book 5. I think we're going to learn a lot of how he sees the world, right? And I think he's going to see himself as perfectly right, you know? Yeah. It's just when we're seeing things through Shallan, then not so much, right?
And here's the thing about Kelsier. He, I think, tries to do the right thing, but doesn't care about the means. And that's where things get sticky with him, is that means don't matter. The victory only does. And so when he's on our side, that can be okay. Anyway, sorry, Grace. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, and I also think with Kelsier, he has a tendency to view his people as the only important thing. He doesn't care if all the nobles die as long as the Scar are free. And right now, with Shallan and Stormlight and Roshar, they are not Kelsier's people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think perhaps what he's doing could be very good for the planet of Scadrial.
Yeah.
But
I was going to add, too, I've always thought that if Kelsier met Adolin, he would hate him.
Oh, absolutely.
So I just get this vibe that because even Kaladin still struggles. I mean, there's that tragic scene where Dalinar kind of relieves him of duty, and his first instinct is I thought you were different. And it's that thing that you always have in you because you've been oppressed by these people for so long, that Kelsier might still have that, where he sees these light eyes. Basically, it's like the nobles of his own world, and he sees that. And so I don't know if he would really like a lot of our characters from Stormlight.
Yeah,
probably not.
I think he would hasn't Sanderson said that he would love Kaladin, but Kaladin wouldn't like him?
Yeah, yes. Yes. Which is totally believable, by the way.
I think so.
Because Kaladin's all about self-sacrifice. So Kelsier would love that he's just down to do anything, but Kaladin would hate Kelsier's selfishness.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But what something Grace said triggered something interesting is that I also feel Taravangian can be also very nearsighted about what's good for his own people. We had that whole scene where he's well, you're going to save my city and all the people in it. Cool. That was a good deal. And so I wonder how Kelsier and Taravangian could play off when they both are that way about their own people.
Yeah, I think that I see somebody in the chat pointing out that Kelsier's probably thinking about the entire Cosmere. But my only thing is I agree with that, but I'm also wondering if he views a certain group within the Cosmere as the ones that absolutely should survive in a sense. I mean, I remember people discussing the fact that they thought Kaladin might side with the Parshmen and everything, especially when you see that in Oathbringer when he goes to them, and they thought maybe that's why he might become Odium's champion. That was a theory for a while. And in that way, I feel like Kelsier would also relate to the Parshmen because of what's happened with them. And I don't know. I just feel like he's gonna not necessarily be an ally.
No.
I agree.
Which I kind of like, though. I like the idea of seeing if you were on Kelsier's bad side.
Yeah, I think that was something that was played a little bit around with in Era 2, how we knew and loved Sazed, but our characters didn't. So sometimes Wax would be very mad at Harmony, and I would get defensive of Sazed. So it'll be interesting to see some of our favorite characters from different books going head to head, and it might be difficult for us to pick sides. And that will be an interesting dynamic.
Whatever side Kaladin is on is my side.
It might be difficult for you to pick sides. I won't have any difficulty.
Oh, Grace, who are you picking sides with?
I mean, whoever I like more in the moment. I think I can separate my past book feelings.
Okay.
See, if it was somehow Vin against Kaladin, if somehow that were a thing, I would be heartbroken. I'd be like, why would you do this to me? I am not reading this. But
it would be an awesome fight, that's why.
Oh, it would be. But I would want it to be one of those anime fights where they have to fight, and then after they fight, they realize they're on the same side. You know, that would work for me, but not the death.
Yeah. But we gotta. We're gonna get more of this Ghostblood stuff. I don't think the Ghostbloods are gonna get ruined, but I want Shallan and Yasna fight some Ghostbloods. And whatever Bada Mishram's doing, I have no idea how that's gonna be relevant in the plot, because Bada Mishram can connect with the whole species, and Shallan's why do you want a spread that can do that? That seems a little suspicious. Yeah, it does. What's up with that?
I wanted so badly for Shallan to kill the guy in Rhythm of War. I was like,
to kill Kalak?
And then she didn't. I was like, dang it.
But then Kalak can join them hunting Ghostbloods. How awesome is that? And Shallan will have all the world hopping info from a herald personally, along with Yasna's info and Hoyd's info. If they're all on the same page, that's gonna be awesome.
Yes,
I would like to see that. I would like to see them having a whole conversation.
They really need to talk.
Because I am sure getting information from a herald is the most trustworthy source on Roshar. That's just...
They're a little off the rockers sometimes.
Speaking of Shallan, anyone have any thing they want to talk about Testament and Pattern? I'm particularly interested in it. I actually called that she had two Sprens the minute we met that cryptic with the dead eyes. They were like, dead eyes 10 years ago. And I was like, oh, it's obvious Shallan. She already killed one. It's the only thing
Wow, really?
Let me have it. I've never predicted anything. I need you to let me have this one. Anyway, so I'm surprised though. I wasn't expecting... Anyway, I'm just curious, Shallan, we already had her backstory, but now we know that she was broken enough to bond to at least a third ideal, because she had a shard blade, right? Mm-hmm. And then regale on it, and then meet Pattern. So is anyone else curious about what happened in her life to get to that point by like 10 years old?
Shallan's mom is a really big mystery as to like what was going on there, and like the last bits of secrets of Shallan's memory.
Yeah.
I don't think Shallan needed to be broken per se. That is not necessarily a requirement. So
I guess for her, it's speaking truths. So I guess it was what truths was she hiding? I guess that's a better way to say, why was she so young and hiding truths from herself that were big enough to bond someone?
I read a really crazy theory that the Herald Hana is Shallan's mom. it was a very convoluted theory that like was looking at like the image of Chana that we get in Rhythm of War on the end pages. That's like, that kind of looks like Radiant, and maybe Shallan's like drawing upon the memory of her dead mother or something. And it was an interesting theory, but I don't think that's true, but I do like fitting some female heralds into things, because we've seen all the male heralds, and so what are the female heralds doing?
We need some of them.
I think Shallan is maybe pretending that before her mom's death, her family was a happy, normal family, and I don't think that was true. I don't think...
I agree with that.
Yeah.
You don't get to where her father got to overnight just because your daughter killed your wife, I don't think. Like, there was definitely some not good stuff going on in her household, even when she was a child before her mother died.
But the mom tried to kill Shallan, so like that's not great.
Well, yeah. So do you think that will get resolved in book 5? Will we find that out, or is that a back half thing?
We have to get that. I feel like that's a core Shallan mystery that we have to resolve everything with Shallan's past, because we can't be doing this in book 8, 9, and 10. We just can't do it.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Sorry, Grace, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna agree that I think really for all of our main front 5 characters, I think these main arcs are going to be resolved, and
It's interesting what Gabby said, because I felt the same way. I was actually going to bring that up. I felt like Shallan's story in Rhythm of War was handled way too quickly. I realized that this was a long book. I needed more on that. It felt way too soon. And so I am nervous that we will not get enough for it to be resolved satisfactorily in book 5. We have so much to do.
I think that her character is very difficult to write, in that her mental illness is tied to her magic in a sense. And so I think that's a hard thing to navigate, and a little bit in Rhythm of War. I mean, I'm not somebody who experiences that, so I can't say I was offended or anything like that. And I by no means think that how he portrayed her was offensive. I think there was a lot of care put into it, but I think it's tricky when your plot reveals deal with the like memory, like suppressing memories a little bit. So it's like
in books, right?
Do we do that again in book 5? I almost feel like we need the reveal to be handled in a way that's not like tied to an ideal or a spren or magic, or I don't know. I think that's going to be tricky. I agree that I felt like it was leading us to believe there was something it almost felt like her mental health was tied to the plot twist, if you will. And it was, I get how it was done. And again, I'm not like offended or anything, but I think you can't really do that again. Otherwise you're turning it almost into like a caricature. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Like it starts to feel cheap a little bit because you're intentionally hiding things from the reader that you should otherwise know. Yeah.
Yeah, and a little bit, and I had some people disagree, and I totally see why, but I felt a little bit like, it's a mean thing to say, but I would think killing your parents were perhaps more of a big deal than like kind of sort of killing your spren. So it was surprising to me that was like the even bigger secret. And then some people were saying, oh, but her mental health makes it so that she's not going to think like rationally. And I'm like, okay, even that's getting into weird territory. So I don't know. The whole thing with Shallan is I don't know, because I don't know how somebody can write that in a way where it's not going to be tied to the magic. I don't know. It's tricky. I don't know how he's going to reveal that last thing.
Yeah, and I don't know how Shallan's character conflicts are even going to go in the next book. Like, because in a sense, it feels like the core issues with the altars is kind of dealt with in a way. Like it's pretty concluded. So I'm not really sure like how reading Shallan's POV, like how that's going to feel and like what's she struggling against, right? It's quite unclear. Same, honestly, kind of with Kaladin as well, because Kaladin's stuff is kind of resolved. Not that he won't have depression, but like he's turned the corner there very clearly, right?
So it's tricky to write that because it's not like with Shallan with the oh my gosh, not Radiant, the other one, the other.
Veil.
Thank you. Yeah. So the whole idea of like taking in Veil and having those memories, but with depression stuff, that's something that is a part of a person, and that I feel like it's something that's great about how he's writing them is the exposure that this is. It's like with depression, because people experience sadness, I think it's an easier one to relate to. But depression is different from just I'm sad because something sad happened, and it's not something people really can control. And I definitely think there's this stigma of like, well, have you tried like thinking positively? And you're like, yep, I have indeed, and so it's tough because you don't want. I've seen people say, and I always joke, it's like, how dare you? But I get it when people are like, Kaladin's just so mopey. I'm like, okay, but he's depressed. That's the point. But I mean, are we going to have in book 5 Kaladin be really sad again? And then
no, we can't do that.
I wouldn't think so. I think it's like learning to live with the mental health that you have, and trying to also. I think Rhythm of War did a good job of trying to make other people aware of it, and how to help other people instead of just locking them in dark rooms.
Yeah. That's not great. But yeah, I just don't know where. I don't know how many more secrets there's going to be with Shallan, but like I need to know some of the mechanics on how she did certain things, and even Rhythm of War at the end was like, there's still things I didn't know. Well, like, we better frickin' learn this in book 5. Come on.
For me, the big question is, why would Pattern bond a Radiant that he had already, like, that he knew had killed her spren? I think that's a question I'm curious about, especially with the stuff with Maya saying that their stuff was willing. And Brandon kind of said something on a spoiler live. It was a while ago, whatever one. He talked about how, I mean, not all spren become Deadeyes. So like, what did Shallan do? Like, was it just after the Unmade, whose name I'm not even going to try to pronounce, was hidden away? Is that why? Like, I just have a lot of questions around that whole situation.
So I can answer that. So, sorry, I'm the
That's why
premier bottom expert. I wrote the Coppermine article. I know all about it. So prior to Bottom Ishram's imprisonment, Deadeyes did not exist. But after Bottom Ishram was imprisoned, the sibling was hurt, and all things on Roshar, spren included, were damaged in some way. So that's why the sibling couldn't, hear, it couldn't generate tower light anymore. So
the question is, though, every person who abandons Oath now, they will always turn their spren Deadeye?
I believe that is correct.
Okay. I just wasn't sure about that.
And that's the implication that I think makes the most sense. And so when the Radiants decided to give up their oaths, like they knew it would be bad, but because Bottomishram was now imprisoned, and that was like kind of in the same time period, they didn't know that like they would turn out exactly like this. So
I saw that too.
Guys, if you watch my channel, I cannot pronounce anything correctly, and I've triggered a lot of people by it. So
I'm not going to even try and pronounce the thrill. That's why I call it the thrill.
I think it's just safer that I don't pronounce things and don't make people angry, because it's just always wrong when it comes from my mouth.
Silly though to get mad. Why would you get mad? That's like, you can be like, oh, that's not how I say it, or that's not how they say it in the audiobook. But mad, I'm just like, you're privileged. The things that make you mad are somebody doesn't pronounce a fantasy name the same.
Oh, don't worry, we get that all the time in our comments.
Oh my gosh, the people that are annoyed at other people getting mad, or people getting mad.
People getting mad.
People get mad at you guys for saying it different than them.
Oh, all the time. We're not even consistent within our own show, and it's always brought up. But don't worry, my fiance says Adolin, and I say Adolin. It's okay for her to be wrong. I know. She had a few things already highlighted on the stream.
I always said Rabonial, and because I read it before it was even out, and so I couldn't listen to the audiobook or anything. And then so somebody was like, "It's Rabonial," and I'm just like, "Okay, I'm sorry."
Yeah, you can pronounce it however you want.
Word of Brandon.
Yeah, that's true. He repeatedly does. So
someone gave me a video where Brandon Sanderson pronounced Vivina, and it ruined my life. And I
know it's crazy.
Okay, if anybody's ever played Final Fantasy X, it will forever be Titus. It's
always Titus.
Oh, see, my fiance said that she's right and I'm wrong.
Look, thank you. Where is that comment? I can't find it. I would highlight
It's Lady Lameness. It's the fourth one up.
Unless you are reading these books in the original Rosharan version, you are pronouncing everything wrong. Like, that's just...
Grace with the real facts. This was translated into our language.
Right.
So...
Also, I'm pretty sure the audiobook narrators at one point said Jasna and
they're not even internally consistent between the two of them.
Yeah,
they're in the same house.
I for sure have heard Kate Redding change Yasna's voice a little bit, how she does Yasna from one book to the next. And I'm like, wait a second, that's not the voice you gave Yasna. But I'm not going to, email her and be like, excuse me, let me tell you all the reasons I'm upset because apparently I don't have a life. And this is what I spend my time doing.
Brandon doesn't even care about the pronunciation. So you guys don't need to worry about it. Because I don't.
I always wonder, I'm like, do you think are you defending Sanderson's honor? Like, do you think he's going to see that and be like, that one right there, that's a real fan. And I'm proud of them. Like, what is the purpose of it? I don't understand.
Audiobook readers just really it's like, no, that's the pronunciation I heard, and that's the true one.
Then
I have never hate audiobooks. I just want to make that clear. So I will always be my unique self and miss letters and just say it the way my brain interprets.
I spent.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
When I first read Way of Kings and Words of Radiance, I think I spent the entire 2 books reading Shallan as Shalom. I just completely misread and thought there was an M at the end instead of an M.
I've absolutely done that before. And I know I don't know if you guys do this, but I only read the first 4 Wheel of Time books. So, they weren't for me. But I think it's pronounced Tel Aaron Riyadh. Every time I got to that word, I was just like dream world. Like I didn't even bother. Or if somebody's name starts with an S, I'm just like S. Like in my head, it's just the first letter of their name.
My brother does. He doesn't know how.
My brain just recognizes a jumble of letters, and I'm like, oh, that person. And I don't even need to pronounce it. It's just those words mean a person, and there's no pronunciation in my head.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one. And I listen to the audiobook, and I still will be like, I don't know.
Yeah, I can't listen to a 55-hour audiobook. I read much faster, and I process it better.
Exactly.
But it's cool if, you like that. But
I like doing both. I do like a mix. My friend got me into doing this. I only started doing this recently, and it makes me feel like I'm in kindergarten, like I need to learn to read, but where you read and you listen at the same time.
Yep.
And I actually have been really liking it because then it's like both forms at the same time. And I don't know. I kind of, unless I don't like the narrator, but I like the narrators for Stormlight.
Okay, I'm sorry. That was my fault. We got on a tangent.
That's fine. Yeah, what were we talking about?
I don't even know, but I did want to talk about Maya.
To Mishram, I think.
Maya. Anyone have strong feelings about what's going to happen with Maya? My strong feeling is I do not want Adolin to become a Radiant. So
no, I don't either. Thank you for that. We can't have him because in a weird way, I feel like his arc is that he can be a meaningful, important human being without these amazing magical powers that everyone else has. And I feel like you almost undermine that when you're like, except he does need it. So,
go ahead.
Alternative to that, Adolin's arc is also about learning to do things his own way, like without the shadow of Kaladin and Dalinar. And what is there an echo? Sorry.
Yes, there is.
There was almost too.
Yeah, and so what better for that arc than becoming a Radiant his own way, not the way Dalinar and Kaladin and like want him to, in the sense of like, oh, we have to find you a friend to bond, but like in reviving Maya, like his own unique thing.
I don't think reviving Maya will like be exactly the same as a Radiant, because like that's kind of what Blended says. That's like, well, this is something, but it's a different thing. So I don't know if he'll be a Radiant. He might be something new. But I do think he will get some sort of powers.
It's like the Oprah meme of like, now you get a Spren, now you get a Spren.
Yeah.
Everybody would get. I just think if all of our main characters are super amazing Radiants, I do like the idea of him reviving Maya and having his own form of power. I kind of dig him not having the same kinds. And I also think that, if I'm not mistaken, aren't the 10 books, the backstories of every character, going to follow a different order of Radiant?
Yes.
So, I mean, if he was one, he would be the same as Lift, right?
Correct.
So, do you think I'm trying to remember who else is getting a backstory book. Do you think Adolin would ever get a backstory book?
No. So it's going to be Lift, Renarin. I don't know if 9 and 8 are in order, but there's Talon and Ash.
Yeah.
And then there's Yasna. The weird one is really, does that mean Ash will be a Dustbringer? Like, that's the only one that's weird, because we haven't had a Dustbringer book.
Yeah. But, so Lift would be not that he can't be one too. I would just think he's going to somehow get powers in a different way.
I totally see Adolin as an edge dancer.
I mean, like, everybody's got powers.
Yeah.
Like, even in Mistborn, like, everybody ended up using Odium. Like, in this, like, everyone's becoming a Radiant one way or another. I feel like he's going to have something. I don't feel like he's just going to be, like, a guy.
But what about but that's what would be interesting. Like, he just never gets it. Like, everyone else around him is powerful and he has to find a way to be useful. Like, I just find that to be very compelling. I don't necessarily think that's where it's going, but I don't know. I'd be compelled by it.
I think that's kind of like, for anybody that's read The Arithmetist, it's kind of fun about The Arithmetist is that his main character is somebody who loves magic and can't use it. And I kind of feel like that Adolin is the guy, like, because he so much compares himself to everyone all the time. Like, oh, everyone's so disappointed in me. And I like the idea of his character growth being recognizing that, okay, because I feel like in the beginning, he was the hot shot. He was the duelist. Everybody thought he was amazing. He had, you know what I mean? And then all these other people got all these powers, even people who were a part of the class that was beneath him. And then I like the idea of him realizing he doesn't have to be like on top of the like food chain, if you will, in order to be an important person who matters and can help people, I guess. I like that arc for him. I just feel like it would be a good arc.
No one has any comments on that?
I mean, I just want to see Maya come to life, and I think Adolin getting powers is the most surefire way to do that. I mean, if she came back to life and like he didn't get any Radiant powers, but she still got to be his sword friend, I would be fine with that.
That's what I want. No one else can bond Maya either. Let's be clear. Maya cannot be bonded by anyone else. They're just buddies.
I have faith that if Adolin had powers, Brandon will write it in an interesting fashion.
Mm-hmm.
I think it will be done just fine. I think it'll be okay for Adolin. I have no issues with this.
So you're team Adolin getting powers?
Yeah. Yeah, I have no problem with that. Like, if he's done the work to revive a Spren, and that's never happened in the history of Roshar, yeah, I think he deserves some powers. Seems good.
But do you think they'll be the same as a Radiant?
I think there will probably be some differences, but I couldn't surmise how that will work. Like, will he get shard plate? Like, I have no idea what that.
I want to ask really quick, since we're talking about Maya, the fact that Syl seems to not remember certain things too. And I remember in a discussion we were having that somebody brought up something about what if Syl is essentially honor now or something like that. Like she's like a sliver or something of on, like, well, technically they kind of sort of they're on, like, you know what I'm saying. But what if she somehow and just doesn't remember? I don't know. It was interesting. I wish I knew more about that theory because it was an interesting one.
I don't think that's possible for several reasons, but like still not remembering things is just because her Radiant died and she went to sleep for a long time, and also transitioned to the physical realm, which makes every Spren seem to not remember things. So I don't think it's that mysterious.
You don't think there's more to it?
I don't think so. I mean there could be. I wouldn't be surprised if there was, but like Odium sure thinks that Dalinar is making oaths for honor, so like still can't be honor. Therefore, right?
I have seen too that the fact that certain other people, there's like really small references to Syl seeming like a bigger deal. And I know she is because she's like ancient. Sorry, there's a gnat near my face. It's not me like dismissing you guys. But Syl, even I think it was Raboniel even was like, oh, that one, like noting Syl is really important.
Interesting.
But aside from just from a title, I feel like there's got to be something about Syl that is more significant than we realize. Like, is she like the Sazed who's been in front of us the whole time kind of thing?
She has a chapter icon now.
So therefore.
Yeah, I mean, like, I assume we will see Syl viewpoints in the future. Because typically characters who get chapter icons get more viewpoints. That's how it works.
The more we talk, the more I feel like Grace is right and that Syl will be dying. And I'm very upset by that.
I like it.
I hate this.
The more suffering, the better.
I think if you want to know where the idea came from, I was like listening to Daniel Green talk about how he thought Stormlight 5 would be on like a very dark place and people would die. And I was like, what if Syl died instead of Kaladin?
It won't end dark though, because I just don't think Brandon is able to end something like that dark. So I don't think the ending of 5 will feel. I mean, I think dark things were going to happen. People are going to die. I believe that, but I don't think at the end we will be in a bad place emotionally. I just don't see it for his kind of writing.
Syl thing too. She kind of died in Words of Radiance.
You already did that.
Yeah, I'm like, we've kind of had that happen though. Like, and that one was really messed her up good. We all knew that wasn't really a thing. I don't know. I shouldn't say that. Maybe some people really were like, "What? She's gone." But I think we mostly knew she was coming back. But then I don't know if it happened again. I'd be like, "Really? You're gonna stop using Syl to pull at my heartstrings?"
Unless it's like an anti-investiture death, then it's like I don't believe she's dead.
Yeah, it's hard just because now that we know they're trying to pull them into the physical realm. I mean, there has to be a consequence to that, and death just seems to be a step.
I just don't
stop.
I just don't know how anti-investiture is going to be like used in the plot. So, I mean, because like that was a big deal in this book, and now we are getting a bunch of honor Spren going to help. I don't know how that's going to be relevant. Like, I think Spren are going to die. Some Spren are going to die. Some U's are going to die.
I mean, we already saw a Spren die. I think that was just one of many. Yeah. You know, world hopping. Do you think we're going to see world hopping in 5, or do you think it's going to be a back half thing?
Back half.
I think we might see something with Shallan at the end of book 5 in a sort of like the adventure continues, but then like it'll cut off right before she leaves the world.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I feel, Grace. I feel like it will not be a primary plot, but I think we will see it in book 5.
I think it'll be like
I gotta get out of here.
I think it'll be like an Oathbringer Shadesmar thing. You get a preview. You get a teaser trailer for it, and then you're gonna see more later. I don't think watch Sanderson have the whole book be freaking world hopping or something. Right. But I don't think that's actually what we're going to be seeing.
Well, it's only 10 days, right? I mean, it feels like that would be a lot to kind of introduce it actually happening and then just like have it happen the entire book. I feel like that's something that has to be sprinkled in. Otherwise it would feel cheap almost, or like rushed in a way.
Mm-hmm. I mean, every book just needs to be longer. And that's just...
Exactly.
We have to get to an even 500,000 words long for the 5th book. It's very Vorin, you know. We got to get it. Book 5, it'll be perfect. And then the back half can have decreasing word counts. Yeah, okay, that's not gonna happen.
Matching word count. So that
yeah.
Oh my gosh, my husband got so annoyed because there's a part in one of the books where I think it's Oathbringer, where somebody makes a comment about like, well, you know, the sequel always has to be longer, and he was like, no, Brandon, it doesn't.
Oh yeah.
You guys, I'm sure Brandon has said that Rhythm of War will be the longest book in the Stormlight Archive.
Yeah.
I'm sure all the ones after this will be shorter.
He said that in Way of Kings. Like
he said that about Way of Kings, Words of Radiance, Oathbringer. So we're on a good trajectory.
Yeah, I talked with him about that Way of Kings. That was August 2010, before the book came out.
I just want to add I see in the chat, we did talk a little bit about, do we think the whole book is going to be those 10 days or not earlier?
Ooh.
But I don't think so. Personally.
I think most of it will be, but like I think part 5 might be like a super extended epilogue type thing rather than the climax.
Well, but I think we're going to see the battle. So we don't know how long that battle will last. We don't know what that battle entails. So there's a way to me that, you know, part 1 and 2 is the 10 days or something. Part 3 and 4 is a battle. Part 5, I don't know.
Do you think it's going to be like a straight up battle though? Like 2 armies in a field clashing out kind of battle? Or is it going to be like totally not a physical thing?
I was really pleased with the fact that I know some people didn't like the way that it happened in Rhythm of War, but after Oathbringer, I was like, I want a more personal and Sanderlanche, right? And I feel like we definitely got that in Rhythm of War. I don't know if I want it to be too massive in that then you lose like the personal aspects almost in a sense. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be like that, Alex. I think that there will be some aspect of more traditional action, but I think there's going to be a lot of sneakier things happening too.
I think there will be a large-scale conflict. A large-scale conflict. We got so little of it. Where's the Thunderclasts? Need some Thunderclasts in action. Come on.
I mean, knowing how Brandon writes, like having the entire part 4 of the book just being like a giant Sanderson avalanche with like intercuts between like the Duel of the Champions and whatever else is going on. Feels completely possible to me.
Yeah, will be in different places. I guess the battle could be in Shinovar or something against whatever. I don't know. And then there's something in Urithiru, and so that we get personal stuff, but also large scale conflict. I think can be done well, but I think of any book like Way of Kings had part 5. It wasn't the climax; it was just like the epilogue in a sense.
Yeah.
Right. So this book is going to have a big part 5, but I think that could just be epilogue. And that could happen over many other days.
I just loved the endings of Way of Kings and Words of Radiance so much. And then Oathbringer, it felt like it was trying to top them. And for me personally, it got to be a little much. So
like everybody in the battle. It was so good though.
I'm with you. I'm not for large scale battles.
I love it.
Oh, good.
It depends.
It could be a 500-page battle, and I would be totally into it.
I don't know if I need that, but is the Dalinar moment of like you can't have my pain and just like all that awesome fighting? It was primo. That was great.
I think part of it is that there were elements to the battle at the end that like tying back to it didn't feel as personal. Like the whole thing with the ruby, where I for a second was like, what's happening right now? Like it wasn't as built up as like Way of Kings. That stupid ending is so good, where it's like the whole book is leading up to this moment and this betrayal and like the emotions tied with like, no, we have to go back for them. And then Dalinar like giving up his sword. All of it was so emotional, but also epic. And then same thing with Words of Radiance. Like the ending was so epic with Seth constantly like looming the whole time. I would be down for something like that for the end of book 5.
I didn't like Way of Kings' ending the first time I read the book.
How dare you, sir?
But see, here's the thing. This is just the problem of expectations. And I have learned to love that book. But see, I was trained after Mistborn that part 5 is the climax. So when it happened in part 4, I was expecting more crap to happen in part 5. That was not true. That was not the case. And so I'm like, oh, okay. So like, because my expectations were not correct, I was disappointed in that way. Whereas like Words of Radiance and Oathbringer, I'm like, yeah, let's go. And I like Rhythm quite a bit. I think Oathbringer is my favorite ending. So
that's so funny. It's
a lot of people disagree with me. That's fair, but
it's a close second for me.
Words of Radiance is my personal favorite ending.
It's really good though. Like it's really good.
I love Oathbringer because I love Dalinar, and that entire book was awesome, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think we will need to get some large scale conflict. It was just weird that we got a book with war in the title and we got like one battle and like otherwise it was very close quarter battles.
It wasn't war. It was the rhythm of war.
I'm just saying a title like that implies that war will be involved in the book.
Or it's just implying that the next book is the war.
Because yeah, right. Mm-hmm. I'm with you. But we'll get some big conflict. I imagine there will be some personal aspect. I think we'll have a longer, trail off of like stuff that will whatever happens, right? Whoever dies.
Yeah.
Like Brandon books, they tend to end pretty sharply a lot of the times, and so I think we need to.
They do
wrap it up a little more, especially if we're going to have a long gap.
I could see the beginning of Rhythm of War, the way that was done. That action was pretty much perfect for me. So if we get something like that, I would be very pleased. I would like something like that.
Here's a question for you guys. Mistborn, do we think we're going to see something big for Stormlight in the next Mistborn book? Like something that's going to change how we feel about it?
No.
I mean, Era 2 book 4, probably not. But
probably not.
I think Era 2 book 4 is going to have implications for Scadrial and implications for maybe far future Cosmere, but I don't see it having any Stormlight stuff in it.
I think it's just I think that whatever happens with the reveals with Kelsier are gonna make us need to like all come back together and be like, okay, well now that happened.
Yeah, I think there's gonna be some Kelsier stuff that will change our opinion on what the ghostbloods are actually doing, and then will perhaps trickle into Stormlight.
But when is Era 2 book 4 takes place when in the timeline though?
After book 5, Brandon between Stormlight 5 and 6, but I don't know. You can never really trust Brandon on timeline stuff because he doesn't remember. Like when we interviewed him a month or two ago, he didn't remember what he had said previously. So don't trust that for a second.
I mean, he hired people to keep a wiki and tell him when he's wrong.
It's just means
for that.
Talking to him, he doesn't look at the wiki. He's just going on, just spitballing.
He has people for that.
Like,
yeah, right, exactly.
I feel like he wouldn't want to put like major Cosmere implications into the book that's going to come out.
Yeah,
4 years before book 5, 3? I don't remember when the publications are happening, but
we'll get Lost Metal, I assume, in 2022, and then book 5 in 2023.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know, maybe.
If
he might throw some
does,
stuff in there.
If it does have implications, I think it would be for back half.
I
think
that makes
more
sense.
shard stuff, which I think is going to be in the back half.
Some shard stuff, some maybe like planet interaction stuff,
autonomy stuff.
Yeah, but I think book 5 is going to be really like wrapping up Stormlight. I don't see Mistborn having influence on that.
We can't be opening new threads until we've we will be opening threads for the back half, but we need to have a satisfying conclusion for things. And that's really tough.
We've got the extend with thing where with all the rings, and you're like, why are ferochemists here?
Why are there 2 ferochemists in Rhythm?
Why?
I can see one, but I don't understand why 2 ferochemists are here.
I know.
Yeah, what does that mean? What is that?
That's a great question.
What about who's 16? Does anyone feel like they have a
what is up with
definitive?
that? There's so many things that are just like, I mean, clearly that has something to do with something, but I have no idea.
What are people's theories for that?
I have no idea. What's up with 16?
I was convinced Scadrial just because 16 is such an important number. But the more theories I hear about other things, I feel like my theory is very weak on that case.
The only theory I really remember is that it's like Zeth's father or something like that.
I saw that too.
But like everyone who's not Rosharian is described like a Shin, right?
Yeah,
so
Yeah.
I think someone said he looked sickly, so maybe it was like Celish, like, you know, like the Elantrians in a way.
Yeah, they were saying they don't think he ate or something, like, so maybe he was Celish.
Every 16 days, really bizarre. I have no idea.
Somebody's very confident that it's Seth's dad.
He is obviously from Vax. I don't know why you guys are debating. Like,
yeah. Do you guys remember that?
One of my favorite things ever is I made that video of like who will be Odium's champion before Rhythm of War, so now it's pointless. But I had people that would clearly come to that video not to watch to tell me how stupid I am because clearly that plot thread is dead after Oathbringer, and I was like, okay, well, I'm excited now that Rhythm of War is out.
We had to have a contest of champions, no question. That would be such
it was over. He said, "You can't have my pain." That was it. Didn't you read the book?
Yeah, that just means Dalinar's not Odium's champion.
Say, did you read the book?
Yeah, my favorite theory that I just think it's super fun is the Gavilar is still alive theory. I think it's hilarious.
Dude, Gavilar's prologue. We're gonna get Gavilar prologue, book 5. That is gonna be a huge prologue. Think about just how many people he has to talk to. He's got to talk to everyone and Taravangian. He talked to Taravangian too that night. That is insane.
Yeah.
I want to know, how'd he get the anti-void light? What?
Are we just going to breeze over the conversation with Navani, or are we going to replay that one?
Yeah, I have no, right? Like, how much are we going to see? Is it going to be like
head? Is he going to be like this storming woman?
Oh, God. He's the worst.
I'll be excited.
I want to know how he got that void light.
I'm super excited for that. Is it confirmed that it's going to be a Gavilar prologue?
Brandon said that it's going to be a Gavilar prologue.
And it will probably be our last prologue about that, right? Are we going to have the same prologue in Back 5, though, like we've had this time? I hope so, where it's the same event from 5 different perspectives.
Yeah,
what if the prologue moving forward is the ending of book 5 from different people's perspectives, trying to figure out like what the heck? That could be interesting. I don't know how you'd pull that off.
That'd be interesting because our prequel here is the beginning of the whole thing, right? So that would be a nice kind of like bookend sort of.
But it could easily be an event that happens in between.
Yeah.
But it could also be like something that happened on Ashen thousands of years ago. Like that's also completely plausible.
Oh my gosh. Some of those interludes, I'm like, who are these people?
Yeah.
And then like if we get like the formation of the Oath Pact or something, and then like the last one is like Ishar, Binder of Gods, and then we also get like Shalash or Channa, that would be cool.
I was showing Alex the other day that somebody said they recommend people to read Way of Kings the first time by not reading any of the Shallan point of views and not reading any of the interludes except for Zeth's, and then go back and read theirs later, and just remember that Yasna is the dead king's daughter. I was like, okay, I mean, if you want to read it that way, that works.
That's weird.
That's very bizarre.
It's certainly a way to read the book.
Yeah.
I liked the Shallan in Way of Kings. When you hit part 2 and you get just like, hey, you're punched in the face with colon stuff, I'm like, I'm missing Shallan actually quite a lot in that book.
Yeah, the interesting thing, I mean, this is not the topic of this video, but the interesting thing about Shallan is sometimes I get frustrated when people don't allow characters to change. They view Shallan as weak and they don't realize that she has this arc. And if you can make it to the end of Shallan, you're like, oh, she's not at all what we thought. Like sometimes you just have to give a character time before you make judgments on that character.
Yeah. She's definitely a super interesting character.
Yeah.
Very different than in Way of Kings at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, in an effort not to keep everyone's night here, because we could talk to the wee hours of the morning, I know I could about this, I want to go out with your number one prediction for Stormlight Archive 5. If you had to say, I'm going to die on this hill, what prediction are you dying on?
Oh my gosh.
I think it's still dying. I think that's the one. I mean between that and like Seth as a champion, but I think still dying is the one that I have to go with as like I believe this will happen.
Why?
I don't know. I know I said at the beginning, and I know that it's a tired thing, but I still think that scene with Adolin and Kaladin with the coin is going to mean something. It just, I don't know. I feel like that scene is going to come back and it's going to be so tragic. And so I know it's vague, but I feel like that's got to be more meaningful.
I think they're going to go up the steps to the top of Urithiru. Dalinar is going to see Taravangian and he's going to be like, wait, you're back? Are you Odium's champion? And Taravangian's will be like, no, that is not what's happening here at all. And then Dalinar is going to realize, oh yeah, we're really screwed. And then we're going to get a champion that Dalinar is not expecting.
Alex?
Piggyback off after that scene. Dalinar is 100% dying in book 5.
Dying or becoming effused and rampaging around the Cosmere?
Whatever. He's leaving us in his current form.
That's true.
Dead to us.
Yes.
He is dead. He is no longer Dalinar, the person. He is.
I think that's a fair one too.
Dead or ascended, or I mean, Sanderson doesn't always like to kill his characters necessarily, so probably ascend in some way rather than dying, but he will no longer be Dalinar as we know him currently.
I just want to add one more thing. When I was talking about how people had submitted potential titles, depending on if it's KOW or KOWT, somebody said they think it'll be called Kaladin Obviously Wants Therapy. So maybe we'll finally
That's good. I'd buy that book.
Maybe in book 5, Kaladin will finally set up therapy sessions, like officially in Roshar.
Real Battle of Champions is the therapy that we did along the way.
Kaladin needs therapy. Kaladin needs love. This next book just really needs to follow on that sort of thing.
A lot of people need therapy in book 5.
A lot of people need therapy. I'm going to say, I think there's only a 50-50 chance of this happening, but I kind of strongly believe it's a big possibility. So I'm going to die on the hill that Roshar is going to be uninhabitable in some form. That we will be having to leave Roshar.
You know what's funny?
Bold claim.
We're more devastated at the idea of Syl dying than this whole planet that everyone.
It's exactly the difference between Dalinar being a war criminal and Moash killing like a few people in Oathbringer. It's exactly the same thing.
Exactly, and I would rather see Roshar die than Syl. Let's talk about all the. No, we don't have time for this. If we talk about all the characters we'd rather see die than Syl, the list is long.
Yeah, that's true.
Everyone. Everyone but Kaladin. Let them be at peace just a little bit.
No, what if they just die together? Then they're at peace.
Fine. To an extent, that's fine. Okay, I can't have them separated from each other.
I don't need any Romeo and Juliet garbage up in here. Okay.
2 anti-investiture knives. They're dead. There you go. Easy.
Let's leave on Syl dying. That will be our end note. Stormlight Archive predictions. I want to thank you so much, Eric, Al, Grace, and Alex for joining me. I had tons of fun talking to you guys. Thank you for everyone in the comments joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I think we should reconvene after Era or Mistborn Era 2's final book comes out. Maybe we'll find something that'd be kind of fun. So we'll do it again. Thank you, everybody. I hope you guys have a good night.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.